we believe and profess to be true, together as Christian men, is the foundation and cement of our unity. Every word of the creed was prayed over, argued over, and clarified by decades of struggle in the early church. The words, because of that, are precious. We need to give our hearts to what we hear and what we say in our public worship. Otherwise, little by little, we become dishonest. Start with the word renewing. Over time, even the strongest marriage can wear down because of hardships and fatigue. Couples renew their vows to remember and reinforce their love for each other. The story of the church is the same. History has shown us again and again that over time, the life of the church can become routine and then an afterthought. But a she, and the church is referred to as Holy Mother Church. Nobody can love the church as an institution any more than they can love General Motors or the IRS. Now, the church has institutional forms because she needs to work in the legal and material structures of this world, but the essence of the church is mother and teacher, guide and comforter, family and community of faith. The church is not buildings. It's people gathered together by the call of God. Jesus said to us, "Make disciples of all nations." And Jesus meant exactly what he said. He meant those words of the Gospels for all of us, including you and me. We need to bring Jesus Christ to the whole world, and the whole world to Jesus Christ. Our mission starts with our families, and it flows straight from the inner life of the Holy Trinity. God sent his Son. His Son sent the church, and the church sends you and me. Is it a set of doctrines or ideas? Though all of these things do play an important part in the life of faith. What faith is confidence in things unseen, based on the word of someone we know and love. In this case, God. Faith is a gift from God. He chooses us. We can certainly ask for the gift of faith, and when it's offered, we can freely choose to accept it or not. But the initiative is God's, and only a living encounter and a living relationship with Jesus Christ can make faith sustainable. In a sense, our political and economic power, our addictions to comfort, consumption, and entertainment, and sometimes pornography, have made us stupid. David McCullough, the Pulitzer Prize-winning writer, said recently that Americans have become historically illiterate as a nation. He tells a story of a student at an elite university who attended one of his lectures and then thanked him afterwards. She said she was very grateful because she heard him speak, and in that speech she learned for the first time, and because she hadn't known it before, that all 13 of the original American colonies were located on the East Coast. It's a college student. Myself, it reminds me of a friend of mine who I was helping through college, and he didn't know where South America or Europe was on the global map. I mean, we may say, those of us who are older may think that's really strange because of our great geography classes in school. But in some sense, the present time young people have become somewhat illiterate when it comes to basic things that those of us... I'm not concerned only because of this obvious sort of secularizing of our American culture. I think the problem is more subtle than that. In Smith's words, Christianity is either degenerating into a pathetic version of itself, or more significantly, it's actively being colonized and displaced by a very different kind of religious faith. Now, this is the legacy, not only a part of it, but the saddest part of it, that my generation, the boomer generation, has left to the church in the United States. Young people think this way because, not because of their schools, but because of their families.
Irreplaceable importance. My dear brothers, there are no second-class Catholics and no second-class vocations. We all need each other. And when we put people in vocation, it's always the work of God. But God, in His love, and this is sometimes a mystery, has always decided to work through us. The privilege and the challenge then belongs to us. So we need to ask ourselves, what do I want my life to mean? If I claim to be a believing Catholic man, can I prove it with a pattern of my life?
We're called to martyrdom, all of us here. That's what the word martyr means. It's a Greek word for witness. We may or may not ever suffer personally for our Lord Jesus Christ. But all of us who are serious, that's wise, we need to become Christian men. And if we can serve God through the witness of our lives, by kindling that fire of holiness again in the heart of Philadelphia, then God will make all things new in our church, in our families.
And they made that decision for whatever reason they made the decision. And I try to live my life based on teachings of the Catholic Church, best I can. Not perfect, certainly. And I remember when I was here the last time, and I was talking about my faith journey, and I talk about how I struggle every day. It's not been a linear path. Nothing has changed over the last 4 years. I still struggle. It's still not a linear path. Maybe you can relate to some of what I'm about to say. I struggle because you see so many things that just aren't good about people as a police officer. People don't normally call 911 just to tell you to have a nice day. Some problem, some issue that's going on. Now, I'm not from Philadelphia. I'm from Chicago, born and raised. Grew up in a community called Inglewood on the south side of Chicago. Now, if I had not maintained balance, I couldn't do this for 45 years. I just would not be able to handle it for that long a period of time. So the question is, how do you maintain balance? See, as a police officer, you can get tunnel vision very easily. And by that I mean where, you really see whatever it is that you're looking for in life. And if all you're looking for are criminals, pretty soon that's all you see are criminals. Because you tend to overlook the good things that are going on around that particular area. When I was a young police officer, foot patrol was when I was 14 years old maybe. Died right there on a corner of 74th and Union Street in Inglewood. That same corner, about 5 years later, was exactly 5 years later, 1970, a police officer by the name of Kenneth Kaner had just handled a missing persons report. And he pulled right up on that corner to fill out his report. Now, I was working 4 to 12. I was a cadet by then. And I was working 4 to 12, and I had just come home, and I pulled in front of my house. I lived literally 2 doors off that corner. And I remember seeing the police car there. And it's light on. It was not unusual. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've done the same thing. You got paper, you gotta record, you find a spot that's fairly quiet, you sit there and you make out your report. It's no big deal. I go in the house, lay down, hear a loud noise. Father gets up, he runs outside. I put on my trousers, go outside. Somebody walked up on this police officer, shot him in the face with a shotgun, killed him. I saw that in 1970. Didn't realize the impact that that sort of thing would have on me. I mean, for years I kind of pushed this stuff down so that you don't really think about it much, you don't really recall it. It's only recently that I really even thought about the fact that both those incidents occurred right on the same corner, literally 2 doors from my house. But you know what? When I think about Inglewood, I think about Inglewood in positive terms. I think about it as a strong community. I think about my neighbors. I think about the people who help guide me through life, not just my parents, but people that live next door, people that live down the street, parents of other children that I hung around with that looked out for all of our well-being. 3,000-pound automobile, 40 miles an hour, running from one 911 call to the other. You're out there on foot. You begin to learn the lesson that I mentioned earlier. There are more decent, law-abiding people living in that neighborhood than there are criminals. We talk a lot about youth. You hear a lot about youth, and you hear about, oh, this generation, you know, these kids, I don't know what's wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them. No more than what was wrong with me growing up. And most kids, in a way, that they're going to be able to instill the kind of values that their children will need to be successful. I mean, you know, when you stop and think about it now, and everything that people, and the youngsters in particular, and even adults are bombarded with, and sometimes we kind of play it off. Well, you know, it's freedom of speech, and people have a way, you know, they're able to do this, they're able to do that. Listen to the lyrics of some, and people said the same thing when I was growing up, and I grew up in the Motown era, and my parents probably thought we were all going you know where, and listening to some of the stuff there that now sounds very romantic to us, but but for people that grew up in a big band era and listening to Sinatra and Nat King Cole and all that sort of thing, they say, oh my God, what are they listening to? But the disrespect being paid toward women, and even when you hear women using certain language that's, to me, very demeaning toward themselves. I mean, where are we going with that? We're in a world now where it seems like we always want the easy way out. Let's legalize marijuana. Now, this is not going to be a political statement here, because that's way above my pay grade, okay? And I don't really have a problem with people using things for medicinal purposes. I truly don't. But legalizing a substance that you don't know enough about long-term health consequences or anything else, I don't quite get it. Instead of talking about legalization of something like that, why not talk more about treatment and prevention? Why not get people to not alter their mental state? Why not get people to find other ways to relieve stress and to deal with the issues of life? That's just my personal opinion. I don't get it. Perhaps we can do. Let's not be so quick to jump on the bandwagon. I'm not trying to be a politician here at all. I'm just saying, for elected leaders, be careful and think about it. Think about there are consequences to everything we do in life, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Think about it. And we all need to individually think about these things, because we want a world, we want an environment, we want a city where our children can grow up, feel safe, be secure, have opportunity. And that may not be, you know, it's not Armageddon, it's not the end of the world, it's none of that. But let's not continue to allow our values and our principles to erode away and think it's okay. It's not okay. As we have our values, we wouldn't have to do these sorts of things. But that's not the world we live in. It may never be the world we live in, but it's a world that could be a lot better than the one we're in right now. And that's our job. We have to make the next generation, their world, better than the one we lived in. They, in turn, make the one better for their children. So I'm going to end and again, just really thank all of you. And even though I said that I struggle with my faith in human beings, I'm also an optimist. I'm also a person that sees an awful lot of good. I see more good than I see evil out there. I know it's there, but I also look for the good. And as a police officer, take those blinders off. Get rid of that tunnel vision. When you drive down the street, and maybe you may see a person or two that's out there doing wrong, let your eyes also see all the folks out there that are doing right, that are struggling, just trying to make ends meet, raising their families, doing the things they can do for their children. You know, they're really strong in their values, and they're making a difference in their community. Let's respect that. Let's honor that. Let's recognize it. But where there are gaps, let's make a commitment to do all we can to help fill those gaps. And that's how we man up as a city and as a society. So God bless all of you. Thank you for letting me share just a few thoughts with you this afternoon, and continued success to all of you. Thank you.
So let's ask God now to really help us to celebrate as He takes us today to the mountain of the Transfiguration. Do you want to be transformed today? You want to be Jesus? Well, let's enter into that beautiful mystery of His death, dying, and resurrection. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.